Hi, this is Elizabeth, and I'm going to teach you how to make a traditional Dutch pastry called banquet. The ingredients that you will need for banquet include 4 cups of flour, 2 cups of cold butter. I recommend freezing your butter prior to making this and then cutting it into smaller pieces so it's easier to mix. Approximately 1 cup of ice water, a half a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. For the filling, you're going to need 2 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, 1 pound or 2 cups of almond paste, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. If you're not sure where to purchase almond paste, you can look online and find recipes to make your own. We usually buy our almond paste from Blue Diamond Almond Factory online. It's cheaper to buy it in a big gallon than it is in the 7-ounce tubes they sell it at the store, but either way will work. Before you begin making the banquet, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Take your butter as cold as it can be, preferably frozen, and cut it into smaller chunks so that it's easier to mix in with the other dry ingredients. You're going to place your flour, your butter, your salt, and your baking powder into a large bowl. Using a pastry cutter, mix together the butter and flour mixture. You want to be careful not to cream the butter completely into the flour mixture. Your goal is to have pea-sized pieces of cold butter left in your dough. Your dough should look something like this before you add the water. You're still going to have quite a few large chunks of butter, and it's going to be quite dry. Now you're going to slowly add in your ice water a little bit at a time. You want your dough to become sticky, but you don't want it to be too wet. I would start with about 3/4 of a cup of water, pouring in a little bit and then continuing to mix with a pastry cutter to about a cup of water. If you do make your dough too wet and it becomes sticky, you can also add a little bit of flour to help remedy that. Once you've added your water and continued to mix the dough together, you'll notice that the dough will become quite thick. Once your dough starts to look like this picture, I recommend mixing the rest by hand. Continue to mix your dough together by hand until it's smooth. You don't want it to be too sticky, so add flour if needed, but you don't want it to be dry and crumbly either. If it is dry and crumbly, add water as needed. Then you're going to divide your dough into 8 even-sized balls. I do this by breaking my dough in half and then breaking each half into subsequent halves until I have 8 balls. Cover and place your dough into the refrigerator. Once your dough is in the refrigerator, gather your ingredients to create your filling. Mix together sugar, eggs, almond paste, and lemon juice until well combined. When you're ready, remove 1 ball of dough from the fridge and roll it out so it measures about 12 inches long by 4 inches wide. I use a ruler so I make a nice even rectangle, and really there's no length of time that's necessary to refrigerate your dough. I've just found that the colder the dough, the easier it is to work with. Once you have your dough rolled out into rectangles, spoon the filling into the center of the rectangle. Make sure you leave at least an inch on all sides of the dough because you're going to want to be able to seal your dough tightly. Fold the short ends of the pastry dough over and then the long sides. Make sure you press the seams together tightly and seal it. If there's one step that's more important than all the others, it's this one. Make sure you seal each seam together very well. If you don't, you're going to end up with a huge almondy, sticky mess all over your cookie sheet in the bottom of your oven. Don't ask me how I know this. Flip your banquet over so that the seam side is facing down. Then with a sharp knife, cut diagonal slits across the top of the banquet about every inch or so. I usually fit 8 slits to a slice of banquet. Brush the top of the banquet with milk and sprinkle it with sugar. You can also use egg whites, but I feel like milk is easier since you don't have to figure out what to do with the yolk. This will make your banquet have a pretty golden crust when it's done. Bake the banquet for 15 minutes or so until the tops are golden brown. You'll notice that the almond filling will probably bubble up and spill out a little bit. That's normal and totally okay. Yay, it's done! Let your banquet cool down before you cut into it so you don't burn yourself. Slice and enjoy.